What if the reason you haven't started has nothing to do with time, nothing to do with money, nothing to do with opportunity? What if the real reason is something happening inside your mind, something quiet, automatic, and almost completely invisible? Because there's a specific type of person, smart, ambitious, full of ideas. They talk about the future like they've already lived it. They have the vision boards, the playlists, the notebooks, and yet, year after year, nothing moves. Today, we're going inside that psychology, not to judge, but because understanding it is the only way to break it. Mechanism 1. Fantasy bonding. The behavior, dreaming with extraordinary detail. Here's something most people don't know about the brain. When you vividly imagine achieving a goal, the brain doesn't fully distinguish that from actually achieving it. The same neurological reward pathways light up. The same dopamine gets released. So the person who spends 2 hours visualizing their successful business has already received a portion of the neurological reward for building it. Psychologists call this mental simulation substitution. The dream doesn't motivate action. The dream replaces action. The more vivid and detailed your fantasy, the more satisfied your brain becomes with a life that hasn't happened yet. You're not lazy. You're not weak. You are addicted to a version of yourself that only exists in your imagination. Mechanism 2. Identity protection. The behavior, staying in planning mode forever. There's a reason you've been about to start for 3 years. It's not procrastination in the simple sense. It's something more protective.
As long as you haven't tried, you cannot fail. And as long as you cannot fail, the identity you've built around being someone with potential stays completely intact. Psychologists call this self-handicapping. The unconscious mind creates barriers, delays, and distractions, not because you don't care, but because you care too much. If you try and fail, that's evidence. Evidence that maybe you're not who you think you are. The dream protects your ego by never having to be tested against reality. Think about that. The thing you say you want most in life, you may be unconsciously protecting yourself from. Mechanism 3. The preparation loop. The behavior? Constant learning, zero doing. Another course, another book, another podcast episode. I just need to know more before I start. This is one of the most sophisticated traps the mind sets, because it looks like progress, it feels like progress. Research, notebooks full of ideas, skills being built. But here's the truth. Preparing is not the same as doing. And in many cases, preparation becomes a ritual of avoidance. It hands the brain a socially acceptable reason to stay still. I'm not procrastinating, I'm learning. There's even a name for this: action faking. The behavior mimics productivity, but produces zero real-world results. And the cruelest part? The more you learn without acting, the wider the gap becomes between who you know how to be in theory and who you actually are. Mechanism 4. Urgency numbness. The behavior? Always starting next month. The human brain is remarkably bad at feeling future time as real. When you say someday, the brain doesn't feel urgency.
It feels like there's infinite space between now and then. This is called temporal discounting, the psychological tendency to treat future consequences as less real, less pressing, less urgent than what's in front of you right now. The comfort of the couch is immediate. The discomfort of starting is immediate. But the reward for having started, that's somewhere out there in the future, which the brain treats almost like a different lifetime. So you don't act today because today doesn't feel like the moment, and tomorrow doesn't either. And then 10 years pass, and you realize you were always waiting for a feeling of readiness that was never going to arrive on its own. Mechanism 5, social performance. The behavior, talking about plans constantly. There's a fascinating study from New York University. Researchers found that when you share a goal with someone and they acknowledge it, your brain registers a degree of completion. You told people you were writing a book, they responded with respect, with excitement, with "you totally should," and something in your mind quietly checked a box. This is called social reality substitution. The external validation mimics the satisfaction of actually doing the work. And so the person who talks about their goals the most is often the person who achieves the least. Not because they're dishonest, but because the talking satisfied the underlying need, the need to be seen as someone going somewhere. The talking was the destination. Mechanism 6, the comfort of potential. The behavior, never fully committing. This is the deepest one and the hardest to say. An unlived dream is the most powerful dream of all, because it can never disappoint you. It can never fall short. It can never show you your real limits. As long as you keep it in the future, keep it as something you're going to do, it remains perfect. Psychologists call this potential preservation. We protect the dream by never exposing it to reality. The person who keeps the novel as an idea they're going to write someday gets to remain forever a novelist in waiting, because the moment you start, the dream becomes real, and real things can fail. Real things reveal who you actually are versus who you imagined you might be. The unlived life is the safest life, and that safety is quietly costing you everything. Conclusion. Here's the uncomfortable truth. This isn't about discipline. It isn't about motivation. It isn't about hustle. Every mechanism we just walked through, the fantasizing, the protecting, the preparing, the delaying, the performing, the preserving, they're not character flaws. They're the mind doing exactly what it was designed to do: keep you safe. The problem is, the mind cannot tell the difference between the danger of failure and the danger of a lion. It treats both as threats to survive, and so it keeps you exactly where you are. The gap between who you want to be and who you are is not a motivation problem, it's a fear architecture. And the only way through it is not a new system, not a better morning routine, not another video. It's a single, uncomfortable question you ask yourself right now. What is my dream currently protecting me from? If you can answer that honestly, you'll know exactly what your first step needs to be.